Welcome back, everyone. Should women be able to serve in combat? Well, it's a question that's been raised by a new lawsuit that's been filed on behalf of 4 female members of the military. ACLU is suing the Defense Department to put an end to its ban on women in combat. It's a policy which has been in effect since '94. The lawsuit claims that the policy creates a, quote, brass ceiling that limits promotion opportunities for women. Now, the suit claims that because of the policy, women are denied certain critical assignments and combat awards, as well as combat pay and other benefits after their service is complete. However, since 2001, women have been serving in de facto combat roles as explosive ordnance disposal techs and also as members of combat support units. Since 2001, more than 144 military women have been killed and more than 860 have been wounded. Well, joining us now to sound off on this is retired Army Sergeant Nicole Latta. She served in Iraq during Operation Enduring Freedom, and she's kind enough to join us out of her Manhattan studio. Sergeant, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, what do you think about the question here that the court's going to wrestle with? Should women be serving on the front lines?
Yes, we've been doing it for a while. We've maintained different roles within the military, and it's a matter of our passion. It's our job, and once it's an obligation to serve your country, you know, you have a passion and a love to want to do the best you could, and we serve. Whatever job you do have, you serve beside men.
I happen to agree with you, Sergeant, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and give you some of the criticisms people have had of this proposed policy, and you tell me where they're wrong or if you even think there's merit to it. One is they talk about the endurance, and these guys got you know, heavy body armor going on over here, and when you add that to it, the skeletal makeup of women and the musculature, you'd have to be required to be fighting on the front lines in a foxhole over a longer period of time. Women just aren't built that way and they can't handle it. What would you say to that?
Well, that I would have to disagree. Women has to carry and give birth to another human being, and they also have to still live their daily life until giving birth. So those endurance that they're speaking of, there's no merit to it. Once we're in training and we have to go through the training to become a soldier, we're right there beside them. We're carrying our weapons, we're carrying heavy loads, 40, maybe a little bit more of, you know, with our rucksacks. And we're running, walking, climbing, so I see no merit to it.
Well, you know, right now to get through boot camp, there's a certain time you got to run. You got to be able to do a certain number of push-ups, sit-ups, etc. And there's different standards for men and women because they have different roles currently in the military. Do you think it would be fair that the requirements would be identical for both genders, or do you think that there should be, you know, one for women, one for men if they want to be on the front lines?
Well, to clarify, when you're in training, the only difference is the amount of push-ups and sit-ups. But there's women that's exceed the amount and do very well in their physical tests when it comes to the push-ups and the sit-ups and the run. They're exceeding higher or a little better than the men.
Let me ask you about military unit cohesion, and that's one of the arguments. Right now there's a survey that's out that's been put to 53,000 Marines here, and the results haven't come back yet. Do you think most, in this case, Marines, would give this idea a thumbs up, or do you say, wait a second, there's one thing with being in the same unit here, but if you're both in the same front lines, you've got the issue of the sexual tension, you've got the issue of all the things that go into basically sharing a foxhole. What do you think the perception within the military is when these poll results come back?
You will probably get 2 different answers. The ones who know that at a critical moment when you're in the front line and everything is breaking loose, you know, you have rockets and you have guns, bullets shooting at you, your enemy's right there, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It's a matter, this is my team, this is my teammate, this is my comrade, and we're here together and we have to both get home. So those who know the real experience, I think you would get a more positive reaction. And those who give a negative reaction probably haven't been in that situation before.
Well, you just heard from retired Army Sergeant Nicole Lara. Sergeant, thank you very much for a few minutes.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, I want to bring in our table on this. Mark, start with you. I mentioned before that there's going to be a poll that's in the field right now for the Marines. And obviously this wouldn't be relegated just to the Marines, but 53,000 Marines are going to be doing the test. And while we were talking before, while we think probably the guess is the majority won't be crazy about the idea, you said if just the female active duty Marines were asked, your guess would be?
My guess is that most would say it's fine. We don't need a role in infantry. We have a place. We have robust careers. We are in the fight. We matter, and we're fine. And they would say.
And so people know, you've tended to take on issues like this when we're talking about gays in the military, et cetera. You've taken a libertarian perspective to say, live and let live. Is your concern the unit cohesion? Is it more about just the mathematics of how heavy the rucksack is and the musculature, the skeletal? What's the big worry you'd have?
Unit cohesion, I think you can work your way through and it be an experiment, but I think the physical upper body strength issue is a concern. Going up, carrying heavy rucksacks, going over walls, that's a problem. And then there's a cost-benefit piece to this, because if you have one or two people, females, who can make it, do you change the whole structure around for one or two? It's a cost-benefit thing, but ultimately the mission dictates what you do with your infantry in the fight. And if they have to go up a hill with a heavy rucksack, or they have to go over walls, or whatever, that's what they have to do.
But what am I missing, Mark? If women want to do it and women prove they can do it, what am I missing that says they shouldn't do it?
I have no issue with experimentation to see if this is doable, all right? And the Marines have done some experiments recently in this
And just
regard.
simple math for everybody, the Marines opened it up, and 2 active duty female Marines tried, and it was a 13-day boot camp. One bailed after the first day on day 1, and the other one a few days thereafter. Now, that's not a definitive final test and stuff, but you would think the people most, and no one has yet again signed up for it again. Listen, I don't know, the 3 of us, if we'd make it through, so it's, I'm not passing any judgment on anybody. These are tough standards for, okay. Let me ask you 2 guys, listen, how do you think the American public, let's go to that constituency, the American public, how would they feel female POW, female body bag coming back from a woman serving on the front line, sexist or not, it's going to be looked at through a different prism, I think, than if it was John Smith.
And I think back to Jessica Lynch with the rescue mission there, and it got far more attention. I think people would react to it badly, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that bad reaction is something that maybe changes public perception over time, and eventually it helps the American people come to terms with an equality issue.
Do you think lawmakers would think any longer or harder about sending troops into harm's way if on the front lines there were daughters, not just sons?
Yes. All I can tell you, Richard, is I remember being in Somalia, and I saw the women doing, and we didn't have any shower facilities for about a week. And I saw the women doing exactly, we were at the Air Force airport, and they had turned into a makeshift base. And they told us, don't step 1 inch over this line because a sniper can shoot you, a Somalian. And we had on these bulletproof vests, including the women, and it was like 110 degrees in the morning, and I thought I was going to die. I really got off the plane almost in shock and was looking for the corner store.
Yeah.
Africa hot. And so, to answer your question, I've seen the women. Now, it wasn't exactly combat, but they did the same things that the men did. I don't know what they did to bathe, because it was disgusting for all of us. But I will say this, I don't think the American public is ready to see women in body bags. I think whatever president decided to do that, they, almost like President Bush did with Iraq, they would hide the body bags for a while. You couldn't take
I
pictures
want to say
of
this
them.
much, that what we're talking about is not without precedent of our allies, just our allies, Israel, Germany, France, Canada, and a host of other nations, European nations, do this too. I'm not going to speak as an authority about the effectiveness or not, but this is the next debate coming, for whatever it's worth. Okay, please keep the conversation going online. Go to Facebook and Twitter to sound off. Should women fight on the front line? Some of your comments already streaming at the bottom of your screen. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, bring you up to date on some of the Sandy recovery efforts 1 month after. We'll tell you where we as a region are. Stay with us.